Hello, here we are doing the DM guide for Vecna Eve of Ruin. If you don't want it spoiling, you're in the wrong place. This is only spoilers. We're going to learn how to run it, have some thoughts on it, and dig deep. The question is, have you run Nest of the Eldritch Eye, or did you not get that? My video is in this playlist. It's for level 3 characters, and we start here at level 10-ish. So it's up to you whether you go back and run that semi-prequel. It's pretty straightforward dungeon crawl. But it does end with some boons that are fun. And one last thing is, I did a video about Vecna himself, which kind of takes in Cass a bit, and this is covered in the first bit of this module. But it's just easier to watch it in video form, isn't it? Or at least read this book and then watch the video, or whatever. So we have an introduction in the book, and basically it says how Vecna is a god now. He's focused on making a ritual called the Ritual of Remaking, and he's going to perform it in the Cave of the Shattered Reflection on the plane of Pandemonium. And this is like a really ideal place to do such a ritual because of lore. Do we bother with lore? Well, it's important to understand the overarching story thread, isn't it? The beauty of this is that we're going to be hop, skipping and jumping through 50 years of D&D books, most of which, I'm glad to say, I have already run, because it goes in and out of modules. So we don't technically need to worry about Pandemonium yet. Suffice to say, it's on the Great Wheel and it's windy. Pandemonium is basically a load of rocks and tunnels within those rocks. Gravity pulls away from the centre, and we'll get to it, I guess. So Vecna's plan for what it is to basically do a Thanos snap, whereby he will put himself in a magical singularity. Everything else is rewritten so that everyone follows him and thinks he's great. Now here's a picture of Cass and Vecna gazing at each other like young lovers. But actually, they were both evil and they both had a fight. And I talk about it in the video I pointed to. Cass betrayed Vecna with the sword of Cass. Fighting Vecna is just that an iron hand existed. Anyway, Cass now learns of Vecna's idea. And he has this idea to wear the Crown of Lies, a magic item, which will basically disguise him and make him sound like whoever. He chooses Mordenkainen, a massive staple of a wizard in D&D lore. He wants to get Miska the Wolf Spider. We got to look at that too. They're a demon lord from the Underdark. The Underdark being the subterranean levels of Faerun. He's then going to trick Illustrial Silverhand to help. Now, disguising himself as Mordenkainen has one issue. He is in himself not magical, or certainly not to the powers of Mordenkainen. Now, looking at the Crown of Lies here, it has 3 random properties, or you can pick from the minor and major beneficial properties in the DMG. So yeah, choose off the table. While attuned to the crown, you can use an action to transform yourself to look and feel like any creature you've seen at least once, and whose size is similar. While in this disguised form, any lies you tell seem to be true, no matter what methods are used to detect it. The only way to reveal your true nature while transformed by the crown is a wish spell. If a creature wearing this crown is killed by the creature it is disguised as, the crown disintegrates and is destroyed. So there's a mention of Cass's sword. The sword of Cass is not in this adventure, but it could be if you want to throw it in. There's going to be a variety of you on different levels. Some, this will be the first thing you've ever run. Others, you'll be my age, almost 50 plus. And even Christopher Perkins knows that you'll take bits of this and make it your own. That's what he wants. You don't run this word for word, unless you wanna. But hopefully, you'll meander on the way to the destination. Let's say that. So the MacGuffin here is the Rod of 7 Parts. And Cass will say, what we need is the Rod of 7 Parts, Illustrial. And basically what he's saying is, what I want is to get my hands on the Rod of 7 Parts, and you're going to help me do it. So here are the 7 parts. They're spread all over. That is going to be the fun. And this is where the pieces are. In the Underdark, in the Astral Sea, and you'll notice here, Spelljammer, Eberron, Ravenloft, Dragonlance, these are the modules or settings. So yeah, Spelljammers, Astral Sea, the Mournland in Eberron, I don't know what that is. Death House in Barovia, classic. Northern Dargard Mountains in Kryn, Dragonlance, I haven't run that. The Isle of Serpents in Oath, Greyhawk setting. And Avernus the Nine Hells, yes, I have run that. So even I'm 50-50 with that, which is why I like doing these. So the book will say you can start this adventure at 7th, 8th, 9th or 11th level if you're kind of winging it. You might have existing characters from other modules, which is fantastic that you can play whatever you want and meet up at this mid-level start. So 10th level for new characters, that's kind of ideal. We have level backstories, 10th level backstories here, just to explain what they have done up to this point if you're jumping from the nest of the Eldritch Eye to this. But the end of chapter 1 also gives you a big hiatus, so it's quite unusual, or something you can do something cool with. You can effectively insert an entirely different little module or one shot, so to make the Vecna campaign an underlying bubbling away, bobbing up its ugly head now and again kind of a thing before you get into the meat of it. So if you're jumping from 3rd to 10th, okay guys, we're starting the full module, give me some idea of what you've been doing in the intervening years. And you can have them describe anything they want. It doesn't affect the game. You know, they were fighting the Tromocratis, or they infiltrated a gang of goblins, blah, blah, blah. Let them do what they want. But then we have a purpose in Neverwinter, because that's where they kind of start off. Pretty much. They're actually helping find some missing nobles for Lord Neverember. It's a case of how did you get here to be doing this? Vecna's using the power of secrets to complete the ritual. Challenge ratings, blah blah blah, as if that's ever been useful. So how I do these videos, if you haven't watched any of my other ones, is we'll go through the chapter, I'll throw in some ideas, go room by room, and circle back to any stats at the end, because everyone needs different things, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, I know what a Nothic is and how I'm going to run it. They just want the story beats. Whereas someone a bit newer might be like, I'm going to watch the stats and see if he says, oh, remember this bit, don't forget about that one. So any comments, good or bad, hit me up in the comment section, because I will check probably every 5 minutes of every day, seeing whether I've got a comment. I paid extra to get the early access one shot. You know, I paid extra to get this early access digital only copy until the actual physical one comes out, and any support you can throw my way, such as thanks, well done, is greatly appreciated. So this adventure starts off in a modest villa in Neverwinter. So dig out your map for your minis, have 3 priests of Ogmar and several guards around Lord Neverember. There's a bit of text. He says, hey, rescue some nobles please, cheers. We've got Eldon Cawood, he's a scholar of the Outer Planes. Idrina Lamson Settle, a human actor who is well-to-do in high social circles, and she thinks she's got some hot gossip on Lord Neverember. Sarcel Malinosh is a human wild magic sorcerer who plumbs the mysteries of the Outer Planes. And then Umberto Noblin is a gnome historian who has written books on various deities. These are the 4 kidnapped nobles. There's no connection between them, and they were all kidnapped at night. Is that relevant? Not particularly. Who kidnaps during the day? I mean, who kidnaps? Let's set that straight. Here is a picture of the 4 kidnapped folk. Now, Lord Neverember might say, I've had the House of Knowledge try to divine where these people are. And the trail led to Neverdeath Graveyard, and particularly to Halleck's Mausoleum, because for some reason something is stopping us divining inside that. He does sort of say, if you complete this mission, I will give you each a house in Neverwinter. The scholars will let them know that there's 2 parts to the graveyards above. There's a rich rapport section. Now, the catacombs underneath used to belong to the Water Clock Guild, an occult organisation which are supposedly no longer there. But it's important to note that Halleck's Mausoleum and the surrounding graveyards are full of skeletons and zombies. The book seems to skirt over this, like, oh, they're nothing for the party to handle. My players want to go hacking and slashing through undead, even if it's the easiest thing in the world. So give that to your players as an option. So Halleck's itself is a squat building with 2 metal doors. There's like a rusty chain and padlock, which is open anyway. People have been coming in and out quite a lot. Interestingly, it says it doesn't squeak, it's well oiled. That's how useful this place is for the cultists. So they've oiled the door so that it's a secret entrance and exit. So as you get in there, there's 6 empty coffins lining the wall. This was the Haxum family. 40 years ago, they died from the Hotanau volcano, which is part of the lore of Neverwinter. There's a whole thread about them continually rebuilding it back to its former glory. So more stairs lead down to area 2. There are some coffins about and a secret door with a latch inside of a coffin. That latch could make you sneak through to area C9, but otherwise will follow numerically. Going through to C3, there's 3 doors to the north, most notably. Rubble in one corner where a staircase to outside is smashed and decayed. And then these stairs here lead up to a door with an eye drawn on it. Painted. Okay, area 4's got a grate on it, a metal grate which is trapped. When basically any pressure goes on it, poisoned blades slash at whatever is on the grate. It's 4d6 slashing damage. Then a DC 14 con save to see whether you take 4d6 poison from the blades themselves. Now to pique their interest, you need to mention the golden harp and some sort of paper at the bottom. And there's what looks like a bloodied rag. The bloodied rag is from somebody who failed to bring the harp up. The notes are just discarded plans for kidnapping Indrina. They say her secrets will make a worthy sacrifice, because their secrets are power. They have energy. Okay, so we get onto the secrets. The secrets are something that the players can collect. If one player gets a secret, they all get advantage for 1 minute if they whisper this secret. Every time the characters learn a powerful secret, note it on the secret tracker. When one character learns a secret, it counts towards the whole party. To spend this currency, every character in the party gains advantage on d20 rolls for a minute. The secret is then gone from the minds of every character in the party, with the exception of the chapter 10 one about Vecna's location. There's a padlock on C5. You need DC 18 Thieves' Tools or DC 17 Athletics to rip the door open. There is only a single coffin inside. This is actually now a prison cell, really. The prisoner herself is asleep, and this is Sarcelle, the wild magic sorcerer, currently using the mage stats. She asks for you to escort her out, and then she'll talk about a vision, potentially. She saw a desiccated figure of a man levitating off the ground, gathering evil energy around himself in wisps. He screamed and the energy exploded, and the vision terrified Sarcelle. The whole whisper mechanic is ridiculous. I would say that upon hearing this, they feel emboldened, like they're doubly better at things. Area 6, shelves, boxes, bags and crates, lantern oil, chains, manacles, kidnapping gear, alright? 2 potions of poison, which are labelled healing use only. So you can say 2 bottles with healing use only written on. Leave it at that. Southwards into C7, you can see a pipe network going through some of this catacomb area. So water flows from rusted pipes into a basin in the floor with a water elemental and 2 water weirds. Now this is what gets me. It says, but they are indifferent to the characters, and then follows it up with, but they rise to attack anyone who isn't cultists. So give them the opportunity to communicate with these watery denizens, and if they want to fight, you think it's justified, let's go. But the info will be spoken in Aquan. Do they speak that? They'll say, cultists moved into nearby rooms. A fish-headed thing named Shanzazim lives nearby. A small creature is locked in a room just up the hall. Oh, and there's a silver bracelet in the bottom of this basin. It has 7 small diamonds in it and it's worth 150 gold. Into area 8, more pipes. Exciting. And 4 hand wheel turning cogs. You can turn the water pressure or the taps up and down in this area, which can wet cultists, help water things get around, just change the environment into difficult terrain. Quite nice. Right, small area 9. There's a load of jammed rusted cogs on the wall, apart from one which is kind of the secret door handle, if you like, back to where we said about area C2. Okay, down into C10. This is the Madrid, Shanzazim. He's examining small parts on a table. The table's made of rubble. The Marid is actually chatty with the players. He's quite happy if they're not cultists. And as such, he will offer them a gold flywheel, which works as a stone of good luck at the end. We'll look at that. Oh, there's a gnome prisoner nearby he will let out. If you increase the water pressure, as we discussed, the married can move around much freer. Area 11 is a padlocked door, so a cell. This is very watery and damp. Now, the watery monsters that we've spoke about could actually help get into this cell. Because it's watery, they can get in there and, well, use their strength to push the door open easier from inside or something. There's a wet mattress with a gnome on it. This is Umberto. He likes food, especially Goodberry, if any of the players can do that. He'll info dump on them about Vecna and Cass and their relationship, and that in itself is a secret. Advantage on D20 rolls for 1 minute. Into 12, there are some more hand wheels, pipe cogs, water pressure, basically. Now, the stairs go down and then back up the other side, but in C13 are 4 bells. There is a certain bell ringing pattern that the cultists know for who is coming, what high ranking or medium ranking person they need to greet. C14 is a larger mess hall. 4 cultists are being bullied by another cultist called Ox2. Ox2 in particular carries keys to the padlocked doors, as do any of the other cultists you wish. Over a sink in the far side there's the Vecna symbol. This, effectively. So it mentions that the water can flood into this room should you desire. Any noise of, loud enough will bring in 2 mage statistic people from Area 16. Now, the whole bullying thing is about prove your faith by taking a drink. DC 17 con save, or you're poisoned for an hour. That's how you show your devotion to these cultists. In 15, there's an open coffin which is being used as a fire pit, and then the lid is a kind of a table where dirty utensils are soaking in pots. Nothing much else of interest. In Area 16, 4 camp beds, and then there's a human and an elf, both in robes, and Hanel is the male elf, Algra is the female. In 17, shelves of books, scrolls, etc. There are 4 robed cultists in here and 2 ghouls. Also a secret door at the top. There's actually a book about Vecna's eye and hand. Another info dump. Educate your players on that, if you will. There's a gold-plated poetry book. A book on the history of Neverwinter, which contains a scroll of greater invisibility and a scroll of major image. Have those fall out when they take the book off the shelf, maybe. Area 18, where's that? Oh yeah, there. It's an unlocked cell. The person who was in there has been moved. In blankets, there's a notebook about extraplanar intersections, and the owner is Eldon Keywood. In 19, there's hundreds of names etched on plates on the wall. They're being scratched out by 2 Balguras. There's also a secret door, back to 17, DC 17 perception. Area 20 is a very smelly padlocked cell. Thieves' tools or athletics as before, or nicking the guard's keys helps. In here is a human actor in soiled clothes, but fine clothes and headscarf, but dirty now. They sit on a mattress in this stinky place. Indrina Lamson settle. The secret door to a toilet area, which is why it stinks. Indrina knows that Lord Neverember isn't actually descended from Lord Nasher Alagondar, as he claims. She thinks that is what has got her in this mess and kidnapped. That is also learning a secret. You get your D20s for a minute, with advantage. Now, the door to 21 has a big red X on it. Inside are smashed urns and the dust of bodies, and 2 wraiths stomping about. Area 22 is that secret stinky toilet with the secret door. 23 looks like a corridor. Now there's somebody all zoned out and drained, a cultist, walking up and down this corridor. She uses the zombie stat, and she's called Raina Carols, and she plotted a betrayal and therefore was the first person to try out this ritual and have her secrets sucked out of. The man who did that was Gerot Galgin, lead cultist in this catacomb. Area 24, blah blah blah. These are just rest spots, really. Area 25 is a cosy study for a change, and the leader, Gerot Galgin, scribbles furiously. There are tapestries on the walls of feasting undead creatures, and a Nothic called Mazundrin is by his side. You can eventually look through Gerot's papers. He writes about the ritual, draining secrets from people, how he already tried it on that woman in the corridor after her betrayal. There's notes about a magical phenomena called crevices of dusk, which appear in Neverwinter now and again. These gateways go to a plane populated by undead. There's a secret door behind a tapestry also. Area 26 is an enormous room. There are 6 chanting figures with hands raged to a cage that's suspended, and it contains an elf, the last prisoner. The ritual leader, Kendry Nex, has 5 Nothics around him. The 6 cult fanatics gesticulate and chant. The caged elf, Denia, is 20 feet off the floor, 30 feet from the ceiling, and his cage is kind of latched shut from the outside. There's a ritual going on, okay? And if it's interrupted, there is a silverish purple flash. Interrupted as in the leader is killed, the chanters are stopped from chanting, casting silence or something. And basically the interruption of that will fire the guy in the cage and all your players somewhere else. They are instantly in Everite. Okay, what the hell's just happened? Well, there's the material plane, right? Fair room, normal day-to-day business. Above that is like the Feywild. It'd have your house in it, but it would be covered in the most beautiful flowers and picture perfect colours and the way you would like your house to look. Is that true? It's a fairyland version of your house. And they have gone like to the opposite, the dark, shadowy version of your house. Just like when Frodo in Lord of the Rings puts on the ring and it all goes all squiggly and black and white. But it's like a nightmare version of where you are in normal reality. I'm sure all of you know what the Shadow Dark is, really. You're in the Shadow Dark. You're in an alternate version of Neverwinter called Everite. Gloomy reflection of Neverwinter. So yeah, describe the grimness, the fog. Everite is populated by undead, primarily vampires and ghouls, who prey on each other and on travellers. Everite is a crossroads of trade in the Shadowfell, and it includes the lively corpse market. So as they get into Everite, they all have a linked vision. They've interrupted and become part of the connective energies of that ritual to Vecna, and they now have some sort of imperceptible link to what Vecna's up to. So the vision. Around the world and across the plains, you perceive loads and loads of cults of Vecna touched upon in the nest of the Eldritch Eye. One shot. They snatch away people and strip their secrets in rituals. Info dump. Behind them, the withered form of Vecna gathers the secrets like threads, adding them to a glowing sphere of hidden knowledge in some impossibly distant plane, Pandemonium. The vision fades into darkness, leaving only Vecna's glaring left eye. Each character gains a metaphysical link to Vecna, following the rules for blessings, which I guess we can look at in a moment. Vecna is unaware of the characters that are linked to him. You gain a special intuition for secrets. You have an advantage on insight checks. In addition, you can use an action to cast invisibility without expending a spell slot. When the characters acquire the link, remind them about the power of secrets rules, because they might not have spent them, so it could be useful, right? PCs are actually in coffins in Everite. There are 12 ghouls prowling the area of the grave pits that the party is in. Now, that little elf dude, Eldon Keyword, is actually in a coffin that is nailed shut, banging on it, shouting, very scared. So deal with the 12 ghouls, and then the elf sort of says, oh yeah, we're in Everite. It's an evil echo of Neverwinter. The crevice of dusk that we came through is gone. We're going to need to go to the corpse market to find a way back. So the corpse market is again something we can have a look at. So it's a corpsey, nightmarish market. The players are the only ones who are kind of alive and not undead. And this vampire merchant called Sangora will answer questions for 20 gold pieces per question. She knows of a stable crevice of dusk in a tomb of one of Everite's former living families, the Dolindars. It's over there in Everite's graveyard, and I can provide directions to it. So you head over to this particular tomb, Area 1. We've got a fenced off area outside this tomb, stairs down. There are 4 vampires spawn in this area. Let the players deal with them how they wish. They go down into this circular spiral staircase and out into B2. There are upright slabs carved with pictures of robed humans. One is actually blank with a piece of paper stuck to it. Now down here, and there's kind of a hole in the wall. The paper says Numi's room. It's a ghost. And she says, I apologise, I just made this me home, didn't I? So inside there's old rags and a broom because she's a crypt cleaner for the Dolindars. Yeah, I'll tell you about the Dolindars. You're not interested, but I don't know anything about a rift or a crevice of dust, but I remember some puzzle buttons that are deeper in the tomb, but I don't know how they work. Well, thanks. Area 3 is 2 broken stone coffins. There's a many-armed creature that taps at a wall. They look cool. I mean, look at those. One of those is plainly tapping on a wall, and the other one is hidden in the other coffin. They are the Dolindar siblings, Nolan and Evisha. Area 4, over here, 6 pedestals. A carving says, what goods are treasured when home is denied? That is on every pedestal. Now, treasure sits on the pedestal. Gold, a gold helmet, a drift globe with a map of the gate towns of the Outlands carved on it. A necklace of adaptation. My breath is yours, Cavetta. Take it. A book entitled Out of the Endless Prison, outlining methods of escaping the prison plane of Carcerai. And a snow globe containing a miniature replica of the city of Neverwinter. Right, Area 5 is a puzzle door. Not the best puzzle I've ever seen. So each letter has its own little pushable tile on like a keyboard. And the correct combination from the words Dolindar and No Word to Return is to press the A in Dolindar, the L in World, O in Toe, N in Own, E in Return. You spell alone out. So realistically, when our friend Numi is talking about the Dolindars, you have to drop in the clues about how alone they were, how alone they felt. Alone, alone, alone. Oh yeah, we'll type in alone when we get an opportunity to come up with a word. If the 5 words sink into the wall in the wrong order or the wrong letters are pushed, all 5 words reset with a wave of painful loneliness. 22 psychic damage on a failed DC 16 Charisma Wisdom save. If Eldon's there, he hints at what it might be. You can Thieves' Tools it with a DC 16 sleight of hand check. Then in Area 6, a stone coffin with a person with a long arm on top. The floor is properly studded with sharp blades. She's insane, she's called Cavetta, and she's a lonely sorrow sworn again. Look cool. So the blades on the floor are difficult terrain. You do 2d4 slashing every 5 feet you move, but there is a lever somewhere around that can retract them. In the coffin is the bubbling silver purple energy of a crevice of dust. So the party teleport back. So you could have them appear back in 26, but all the cultists, etc. have gone. They've killed the prisoners that you didn't save, and they take any treasure and loot the players didn't get. They go back to Lord Neverember, and he, true to his word, gives them a goddamn house each. The nobles who were rescued rustle up 9,000 gold in total to share from amongst everybody. And most importantly to the players, they get to level up to level 11. Now I'm going to go over Pandemonium, Everite, bits and bats like that. And then after that, we'll do stats. It's a long one. Okay, so this is the Great Wheel. Right in the middle, the material plane. Normal, everyday D&D. In a parallel but changed for the nicer, the more fairy-like, is the Feywild above it. Beneath is the Shadow Dark, where Everite is. Okay, so you get teleported to a completely different plane of existence. Okay, and then one of the other planes on the outside of this wheel is Pandemonium, which is where Vecna will do his ritual. The windswept depths of Pandemonium was the outer plane associated with chaotic neutral or chaotic evil alignments, back when people used alignments. Pandemonium was made entirely of rock, pierced by innumerable tunnels and caverns large and small. All open space was filled with howling winds that carried the sound of every word, shout or scream uttered in the place. Okay, so this is a sort of map of Pandemonium. The toppermost layer with portals to Limbo, the Abyss, the concordant opposition, was called Pandesmos and was the most habitable layer of the 4. Now the River Styx actually passes through this rocky waste. The second layer was called the Layer of Lamentation because the wind whistling through the tunnels carries the cries of anguish and sorrow. The third layer was dark and damp. The fourth layer was the deepest known layer, made of solid rock with no tunnels and only giant bubbles of air or vacuum, filled with huge windstorms. We might need to know more about this later in the adventure, but until then, let's not worry about it. Okay, white is AC 14, 45 average hit points, resistant to necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing, immune to poison, makes 2 longsword attacks or 2 longbow attacks, and can swap out for a life drain on one of those attacks. The life drain is +4, average of 5 necrotic damage, then make a DC 13 con save, or your hit point max is reduced by the amount equal to that damage. Longsword is +4 to attack and 6 average, or 7 two-handed. Longbow +4 to hit, 6 piercing damage. Water Elemental is also AC 14, 114 average damage. Resists acid, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing. It makes 2 slam attacks, +7, 13 average bludgeoning. It can do a whelm, DC 15 strength save, or 13 bludgeoning damage. It's basically a grapple and you're drowning. And at the start of each of the elemental's turns, it's 13 bludgeoning damage. And consider the suffocation rule. A water weird is AC 13, average of 58 hit points. Doesn't have a walking speed, it can only swim, bear that in mind, or at least hover aquaplane across water. It's got fire resistance, which is unusual, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing. It constricts you, +5, 13 bludgeoning damage. You're basically grappled and you have to escape it. A married is AC 17, 229 average damage, can fly and has a swim speed. The spells it knows, it has invisibility, conjure a water elemental, yeah, okay. 2 trident attacks +10, average of 13 or 15 if it's two-handed, and then shoots a water jet 60 feet, and each creature in that line makes a DC 16 dex save or takes 21 bludgeoning, and it can kind of push you away. So that Stone of Good Luck basically gives you a +1 to ability checks and saving throws. While I have it on them, those using the mage stats, AC 12, average of 40 health, ignore the spell casting parts, I would say. And for the prisoners, I wouldn't even give them a dagger. But for the bad guy mages, then, yep, Cone of Cold is good, Ice Storm, Fireball, obviously, Counterspell, obviously. I mean, you're not going to need to use the dagger attack. Cult Fanatic, AC 13, 33 average health, 2 melee attacks, which is basically +4 and 4 piercing. A ghoul is AC 12, has 22 health, bites with a +2 to do 9 damage piercing, or claws with a +4 and does 7 slashing. Then you make a DC 10 con save or you're paralysed for a minute. The Balgura, a large fiend, AC 15, hit points 68 average, resistant to cold, fire and lightning. Can cast invisibility on itself. At the start of its turn it can gain advantage on all melee weapon attack rolls during that turn. Attack rolls against it have advantage until the start of its next turn. It can jump up to 40 feet, makes 3 attacks. A bite +7 to do 11 average piercing, and 2 fists +7 each to give 9 average bludgeoning damage. A Wraith, AC 13, hit points 67 average, flies 60 feet, has resistances to things that aren't silvered, can move through creatures as if difficult terrain. Life Drain, +6 to do 21 necrotic damage. You make a DC 14 con save or your hit point max is reduced by that. The zombie stat for that woman, AC 8, hit points 22, shouldn't need any attacks for that. That Necrotic Wizard, AC 12, 110 average damage, resistant to necrotic, makes 3 arcane burst attacks, which is +7, 25 average necrotic, has Dimension Door, Circle of Death once a day, summons 5 skeletons or zombies. When the Necromancer kills a creature with necrotic damage, it can regain 9 health average. And Nothic is AC 15, hit points 45, 2 claw attacks basically, +4 to hit, 6 average slashing. It can do a Rotting Gaze, which it can make a target succeed on DC 12 con save or take 10 necrotic damage. The Vampire Spawn is AC 15 with 82 average health, regains 10 health at the start of each of its turns, makes 2 claw attacks +6 and hits to do 8 slashing damage, or can grapple. If it gets a grapple, it does a bite attack +6 and does 6 piercing and 7 necrotic, reducing the max health by whatever that amount is. Ghost is only AC 11, hit points 45. It does its Withering Touch, +5 to attack, 17 necrotic damage. Each undead creature within 60 feet makes a DC 13 wisdom save or is frightened for a minute. If the save fails by 5 or more, the target ages 1d4 times 10 years. And also, better than that, does the possession move. DC 13 charisma saving throw or you're possessed by the ghost, and the players have to down that player to 0 to get the damn spirit out. The Lost Sorrow Sworn is AC 15, 78 average health. Makes 2 arm spike attacks, which are +6, a reach of 10 feet, and does 14 piercing on average. Then the Embrace is +6 to attack, and basically 25 piercing damage, and you're grappled, and takes 27 average psychic at the end of each of its turns. The reaction is if it's damaged, the creature grappled by the Embrace takes 18 extra psychic damage. The Lonely Sorrow Sworn is AC 16 at 112 average. At the start of each of its turns, people within 5 feet of it does a DC 15 wisdom save or takes 10 average psychic damage. The Sorrow Sworn has advantage attack rolls while it is within 30 feet of at least 2 other creatures. It otherwise has disadvantage on attack rolls. So it makes a harpoon arm attack +7, reach of 60 feet. It's like a whippy arm. Hits doing 21 average and grapples you. It can grapple up to 2 creatures at once. Each grappled creature must make a DC 15 wisdom save or take 18 psychic damage and gets basically pulled closer. And that, my friends, is it. I hope it is helpful. I can't wait to get the physical book, but this video's gone on long enough. Goodbye.